When they were first being released, Marincesses were often called the water salamangrates, but really that couldn't be further from reality. After all, salamangrates often ended on a weak monster but could consistently get to their powerful traps to give them interruption. The Marincess deck, on the other hand, ended on a huge monster with tons of protection, but couldn't reliably search their only real interruption, which was Marincess Wave. Instead, they just had to hope that your opponent didn't have a high enough attack to beat over your monster, but also hope that they didn't have any spell or trap removal. This, of course, meant that they weren't exactly very good. I mean, I even made an episode of Playing the Unplayable about them back when I was making those. They were kind of a lost cause. Until now. Duels from the Deep gives them a ton of new support, and amongst other things, it fixes one of their main problems. They now can finally search their trap. So let's take a look at this new support, starting with Coral Triangle, since that's the one that will help the deck the most. Made from 2 or more Marincess monsters specifically, it has 2 effects, both of which lock you into water monsters. The first has you discard a water monster in exchange for searching a Marincess trap. The Marincess deck is great at recycling resources back to their hand, especially thanks to Coral Anemone's graveyard effect, which you'll probably make this monster with, so the cost really isn't a problem. You'll of course be searching Marincess Wave for the infinite impermanence type effect, but don't forget that it gives protection to every monster you control, which is nice since they can make Toad pretty consistently nowadays. Her second effect is just a nice recovery, summoning back some Link monsters so you can begin rebuilding your board if it gets completely broken. We then have 2 more extenders, Spring Girl and Sleepy Maiden. Spring Girl needs to banish a Marincess from the graveyard to summon itself, and when used for a water link, it can also do a bit of burn by milling your own deck. Being a level 4, it's a useful Bahamut Shark material. Sleepy Maiden, on the other hand, isn't a level 4, but can summon itself by targeting any Marincess card. It then protects that card from destruction, but only while it's still on the field. This can help make Battlation stay on the field longer, giving you a fully unaffected monster if you have a link made with Crystal Heart as well as Battlation on the field, and then you can use Wave to make all of your other monsters unaffected as well. You'll probably just need to link it away half of the time though, but luckily its graveyard effect isn't too bad, essentially just equipping another link monster to whatever towers you end up making, giving it even more attack. Speaking of making a towers, you also get a new link for Aqua Argonaut. Its first effect works well with Sleepy Maiden, since your opponent won't be allowed to attack any other monster while this is still on the field, making Sleepy Maiden's effect way more useful. However, it's her quick effect that really makes her the go-to summon. By summoning a link monster equipped to her, she can negate a spell or trap your opponent activates. This now brings them up to 2 entire in-archetype interactions on your opponent's turn, which is a big step up from, well, usually none. As a bonus, it can also bounce both one of your water monsters and one of your opponent's cards, giving it a bit of power on your turn as well. Other than that, they've got 2 traps, but those only really have niche applications, so I won't go into too much detail on those. The last really important new piece of support remaining is Marincess Dive. At the cost of a water lock, which you should expect by now, it has 2 simple but very strong effects. Either it's a monster reborn for any non-link Marincess, or if you have Battlation on the field, it straight up summons any Marincess from the deck. I don't think I really need to explain why that's good, right? Now, if you draw Battlation, you finally have another decent target for Sea Angel, giving you a ton of extra resources and hopefully enough level 4s to make a Bahamut Shark. Thanks to all this new support, your board will usually end up being something like an Aqua Argonaut with over 4000 attack, unaffected by opponent's cards, unable to negate a spell or trap, backed up by Marincess Wave giving you quick effect monster negation from the hand, and fairly often this board will also include a Toad, which will benefit from the protection of Wave. While it's still not a ton of interruptions, it's all on top of a powerful towers that can be kinda hard to remove for some decks anyway, so it's still a fairly competent board most of the time. So what does the deck itself look like? Let's take a look. Here it is. This is a build focused on extenders, being able to play through quite a lot of disruption, but of course you can cut some extenders to make room for hand traps going second. Because of this build philosophy, I run 2 of both of the new main deck monsters. You'll be able to summon them almost all of the time, and their secondary effects can be pretty useful. Other than that, we run 3 of all the good Marincess monsters, so that's 3 Blue Tang, 3 Pascalus, 3 Seahorse and 3 Mandarin. Blue Tang's your best starter, besides Pascalus into Blue Tang. Then Seahorse is the one you'll usually send to the graveyard with her effect, but drawing her is fine too. Basilalima is optional at 1. It can do some interesting plays to gain advantage with the new trap, using it to swap one link monster into another, and then it can banish it to get a wave. It's also a level 4, so it's Bahamut Shark materials at worst. Then Silent Sea Nettle is the best non-Marincess extender, since its downside never matters at all, it can almost always summon itself, and it helps make Bahamut Shark. It also recycles your link monsters and Bahamut Shark, so you don't need to worry too much about the fact that your extra deck is full of one-offs. After the Ash Blossoms, I opted to run 2 Battle Ocean. Before the new spell, you'd only really want to run 1, but now if you draw it, you're free to search Dive instead of this with Sea Angel, letting you extend further. You could also run a Terraforming if you wanted to thin your deck further, which would make Blue Tang's Excavate slightly better. Then run 3 Dive since it's always good. Cynet Mining helps you get a Blue Tang or Pascalus more reliably, and there's a ton of things that are fine to discard for it since you can add them back with Blue Slug. Desires is worth running as many copies as you can. You can always do your searches before activating it in case you're worried about banishing more Battle Oceans or something, but honestly there's really not too much reason not to use this. Call By is just a very strong one-off and helps negate graveyard effects which Wave can't deal with. It could be anything else like the Terraforming I mentioned, or some other strong one-off cards like the newly unbanned Change of Heart. Run 3 Wave since even if it is searchable now, it's not a once per turn, so multiple copies is just multiple interruptions. Then I do run 1 Circulation. It's got some fun uses with your Link 3s, or just as a way to dodge targeted removal occasionally, or even as a way to swap out for more waves thanks to Basilalima. For the extra deck it's not too complicated since you'll basically always be waterlocked. I run 1 of each of the old Link 4s and 2 of the new one. The old ones still have their uses, especially Bubble Reef for longer games thanks to its draws. Marbled Rock can recycle your spells and traps, as well as giving you something in the hand to discard for Triangle, and can also be swapped into her thanks to the new trap, but you only really need 1. Coral Triangle's great, so you want at least 2, and then Coral Anemone is the best thing to let you go into Coral Triangle, giving you the extra summon and then the discard for it as well. Crystal Heart's here to offer you protection. Then for Link 1s, Blue Slug is fine at 1 thanks to Sea Nettle, but 2 Sea Angel is good since you'll probably want to search another spell on turn 3. For non-Marincess monsters, Splash Mage is another way to Link Climb, and then of course you run a Bahamut Shark and a Toad, since you have enough level 4 water monsters to make it worth it. Since Toad recycles itself, you can get a second copy out, thanks once again to Sea Nettle for being able to recycle the Bahamut Shark. It comes up surprisingly often. And so that's the deck. Now let's look at some combos. I'll first start by showing what you can do with only Blue Tang, but first, if you've been enjoying the video so far, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. Here you'll start by normal summoning Blue Tang, sending Seahorse. Add it back by linking into Blue Slug, and then excavate with Blue Tang at the same time. You just need to hit any Marincess extender here, which is pretty likely. Summon Seahorse to make a Sea Angel, we'll search Battle Ocean. Those two will make an anemone, who brings back the Blue Tang. Now use whatever extender you excavated to make a Coral Triangle, and then an enemy's effect to add a monster back to fuel Triangle's discard. That will search Wave. Activate Battle Ocean before making your Link 4, so that you can equip 3 cards to her and make her back row negate live. In this case our extender is Sleepy Maiden, so we can banish it to equip a 4th link. We end up with a spell and trap negate and a monster negate usable from the hand. This time we start with Pascalus, who summons Seahorse. Link that into Blue Slug, who adds it back to the hand, before making Sea Angel to get Battle Ocean. Summon both the Seahorse and Sea Nettle, then make an enemy to revive a Pascalus. The 2 level 4s make Bahamut, which makes Toad, and then you can turn Bahamut into a Crystal Heart. Play Battle Ocean and then summon Sleepy Maiden to link into Triangle. That will search your trap by discarding the card an enemy added back, and then you're free to go into your Link 4, equipping 3 links with Battle Ocean and then another thanks to Sleepy Maiden. This time, Aqua Argonaut is unaffected by opponent's card effects, and you also have a Toad and an Ash Blossom, plus Sea Nettle recycled stuff like your Bahamut Shark for more options next turn. Here's a hand that seemingly doesn't really have any extenders. Luckily, you can use Signet Mining to search a blue Tang, who combos well with Pascalus. Those two make both of the Link ones during the regular plays with Days. Since we excavated a Mandarin, we can summon it, making an anemone to climb into Marbled Rock. Its effect, as well as anemones, gets you 2 monsters back to your hand, and then you can use Circulation to swap into Triangle. That will search a second wave, giving you an extra interruption on top of your protected Link 4s. Finally, here's a hand where we start with Battle Ocean. Seahorse can be an extender, but since Blue Slug adds it back, it can also resummon itself. Sea Angel can then search Dive before linking into Crystal Heart, and with Battle Ocean on board, Dive summons a blue Tang straight from the deck. She'll send a Mandarin who can immediately summon itself. We can then make an enemy using Tang to add a second Sleepy Maiden. An enemy revives a monster to make Triangle, and then adds back Dive since we already have a discard fodder. Discard the second Sleepy Maiden for Wave, and then use Circulation to make a Marbled Rock, which can immediately add back the Circulation to dodge stuff, or just swap whatever Link 4 you summon. Then one of the Sleepy Maidens attaches a Link, while the second one protects your Battle Ocean. You can set a cool vibe, but if you do set it, make sure you either use it or use Aqua Argonaut to summon something in order to free up space for your traps from your hand. And so that's the deck! What do you think of the new support? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like it and subscribe. Special thanks to my tier 3 patron, Distran, as well as my tier 2 patrons Jason Merat and Violet Rain. The link to that is in the description. Thanks for watching!